Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, January the 16th, and my name is Aaron Lurie, Director of Professional Learning here at NAESP. Today, we have a wonderful speaker with us, Adam Welcome. Adam Welcome is an author, consultant, speaker, co-founder of Kids Deserve It. Adam has been an elementary school teacher, elementary school principal, and director of innovations for a district with 35,000 students. Welcome, Adam.
Hey, thanks for having me. Ready to
Adam,
rock.
why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll on Webinar Wednesday. I love that. That's pretty catchy. Hey, I'm also a former NAESP member when I was a principal, and this is not a little known fact, but maybe people don't know it. Kids Deserve It was actually started at an NAESP conference in Long Beach about 4 years ago. So
that's great.
Many principals know about Kids Deserve It, and Todd and I met it at a conference. So it all started at NAESP, which is pretty cool. And I also like to run marathons, and I've run 23 marathons in my life. So I think that's really important. Another important piece before we get into the tech tools for principal engagement is life outside of your school. I think that's so important. The work that principals do is so important and so demanding. I know I've been there, but you got to have outlets outside of school, because if you don't, I think you're going to get burned out much quicker at school with the work. So whatever it is, if you run, if you do yoga, if you play with cats, if you're in book studies, it doesn't matter. Whatever you do, make sure you're taking care of yourself outside of school. All right, let's get this Webinar Wednesday rolling. So today, tech tools for principal engagement. There is my Twitter and my Instagram, Mr. Adam Welcome, and my website, mradamwelcome.com, if you want to check things out. So our first tool today for Webinar Wednesday is Google Calendar. Now, maybe you're thinking, Adam, I got my calendar, no big deal, it's easy. But let me tell you how many principals I talk to that keep a paper calendar still, or even worse, they don't share their calendar with the right amount of people at their school. First and foremost, the calendar needs to be shared with your office staff. If you have an office manager, a secretary, you have multiple secretaries and office managers, in my opinion, they have to be able to control your calendar. I can remember my first year as a principal, oh my gosh, this was like 8 years ago when I got my first principal job. The school I took over for was not digitized in many ways, especially in the front office. So I made a Google Calendar and gave my office manager full control. So people would come in, they want to meet with me, she'd put it on the calendar. And after a couple of days, she said, how do you know when I put something on your calendar? And I just told her, I see it on my phone. She didn't need to call me, text me, email me on the walkie-talkie. I'm in classrooms. She just drops it in. Giving your people that control to me is so important. And then you take it a step further with your calendar, having a calendar for IEPs that your resource teacher and your speech pathologist, your psychologist, anybody that controls, that needs that calendar to schedule IEPs for you. I've written many blog posts called How to Run Your School from Your iPhone, because I feel that as a school leader, you can and you should be able to run the vast majority of what you do in your life as a principal from your phone. So I don't want to get an email from my resource teacher asking me if I'm available on these 3 days for this IEP for this particular student. Or think about all the transient people, the speech pathologist, the the OT, whatever they are, trying to get a hold of your calendar. They can go to your calendar, see that you're open, and book the IEP without you even knowing, and it just shows up on your calendar. So, because I don't want one more voicemail on my office phone. I don't want another email. I don't want people to bug me while I'm doing an observation, or I'm playing kickball, or I'm doing lunch duty and hanging out with kids. So no more paper. Paper gets lost. Paper is not effective. Paper does not help you when you're driving home and you remember you have to schedule something. When you're on Google Calendar, you can just pull over on the side of the road, add the calendar invite, invite whoever you need to invite. It goes to their calendar, and voila, you're good to go. a calendar that you create for your school that you embed on your homepage of your website. And you also get the link that you share with parents that they can subscribe to the calendar. This was such a huge time-saving piece for my school community. Parents would say, I didn't need to look for the newsletter. We didn't do one anyway. I didn't need to look on the website. All I needed to do was look at my phone because I subscribed to the school calendar, and you put everything on there. Early release Wednesdays, trick-or-treat nights, any kind of function, PTA meeting, coffees in the morning, whatever it may be. You know, really trying to streamline everything that you do. That's how you're going to be able to run your school from your phone. So on some webinars, the presenter waits till the end to answer questions. We are not going to wait to the end. So if you have a question right away, just put the question in the chat box. I'll get the question. Honor will interrupt me, and we'll answer that question right away. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Being mobile on your calendar is a must. Think about that. All right. These are the two big whoppers right here. Twitter and Instagram, hashtag social media. Now, Twitter completely changed my life. I was actually, when I was an elementary school principal, I was actually thinking about leaving the profession because I was feeling lonely and I was feeling frustrated and I was feeling alone with the work that I was doing. So I can remember my wife telling me, honey, like, what else can you do to kind of help yourself and help your career and connect with people? So I went all in on social media, and Twitter completely changed my life as a professional in so many amazing ways. Every single teacher at my school was on Twitter, and I would say that should be a goal for every school across the country. Now, we did Twitter as a way to share what we were doing. So we would share what we were doing with the community, with other teachers across the state, across the country, across the world, building great collaborative networks, and just making education more fun. And an unintended consequence was our community at school became stronger and tighter. Now, I can remember one time specifically, there was a teacher, second grade teacher, took a picture of something that she had done in her classroom that morning, tweeted it out. Another second grade teacher that taught right next to her was at recess, doing recess duty, looked at her phone, looked at Twitter, saw what her neighbor teacher had done just an hour before, changed her lesson based off what she saw that she was doing after recess. So the unintended consequence was we built such stronger culture and community at our school because we were sharing, and that wasn't even what we were after. Teaching is not that collaborative. Most times it's you and your four walls and your students. You're not talking, you're not collaborating. It's kind of isolating. So really being able to expand on that is really important. Now, with that being said, this was 9 years ago. If I was a principal today, Twitter would not be my go-to for sharing with my community. Twitter is still the go-to for educators connecting with other educators and collaborating that way. Instagram would be my tool of choice by far. I was a principal at another school. Instagram was king, and I really do feel that. Way more parents are on Instagram. It's easier to share with the pictures and little videos. It's super, 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 super fun. So Twitter's kind of like Match.com for educators, I feel. It's where you go meet other people and where you can meet and collaborate and connect. And Instagram is where you share with your community. But these two, they're on your phone, you're mobile. Every single thing I'm talking about needs to be done by your phone. It has to be mobile. If you're not mobile, it's not going to work. There's nothing you need in your office as a principal. There's nothing you need. So for that matter, I spent less than an hour in my office every day from bell to bell, because when you're mobile and you're using tech tools, you can do everything from your phone while you're on campus. So another tip is if that, then this. Adam, I can't keep up. You know, my community does Facebook. Some people do Instagram. Some people do Twitter. I can't post on all three. There's no way. I'm on Snapchat, Flickr, whatever it may be. If that, then this is the best solution for you. Just go to ifthatthenthis.com. and you put the internet to work for you. So whatever, you can connect your Twitter account with your Instagram account, or Twitter with Facebook, or vice versa. So whatever you put on Twitter will automatically go to your Instagram account. So you're saving time. You're going where the people are. I always tell people, if people want hot dogs, don't give them burritos. If your community's on Facebook, why are you tweeting things out? If your community's on Instagram, don't go on Facebook. I don't think anybody should be like sending home a newsletter or like a paper newsletter, because I don't think any community is there. That's my opinion and my experience. So use these tools, put the internet to work with you with if that, then this. Super, super awesome. Okay, Voxer. Now, I started a group called Principles in Action about 4, maybe 5 years ago. And my goal with Principles in Action was to connect every single principal across the country. And Voxer is the tool to do that. So like I said, Twitter is like Match.com, where you meet other educators. Voxer is like that second and third date where you get to go out and you get to know people better. And the coolest thing about Voxer is, first of all, it's free. They have a paid version. I was a freemium user for about a year, maybe a year and a half. You do not need to pay for the paid version. It's not that much money, but you don't need it. And what Voxer is it's basically just voice text. So why would I need that when I could just use my phone? Well, the cool thing about Voxer is I don't need to have your phone number to be able to connect with you. And this is what really saved me as an elementary school principal. Twitter helped, but Voxer really brought it together, because when I can hear someone else's voice, when someone else can hear my voice and we can collaborate and they can hear the intonation and the excitement and the voice, you know that you are connecting with people and you're building relationships. There are so many people across this country that I've never met that I am really, really good friends with, because I talk to them all the time. So here's what you do with Voxer. When I was a principal, I told my colleagues, don't send me an email. If you want to hear back from me, send me a Voxer message. Nobody wants another email. Hello, 1995, they want their email back. Email is dead. Email is a time suck. No more email. Send people a Voxer message. So if you're a principal, if you got 3 elementary schools, 25 elementary schools, start a Voxer group, and you get everybody on your team on Voxer, and you invite everybody. So whatever I say in that group, elementary school principals, the entire group hears that. So I'm not sending another email that people don't reply to, or then people are replying all. Really quick messages. Hey, what do y'all do for behavior assemblies? Don't put that in an email. Put that in a Voxer message. People can hop on. Oh, we don't do them. Oh, we do this. Quick little 15, 30-second snippets while they're driving, while they're walking to the yard, anywhere. Voice is powerful. It's quick. It's efficient. It makes sense. Now, I can't tell you how many book groups my wife has been in that has failed because she doesn't have time to go to the book group. You can do so many things over Voxer, like book groups. I used to give parents my Voxer username. They have your email. I don't want to give them my cell phone number, but I'll give them my Voxer username, and parents would send me a Voxer message during the day. And it wasn't complaining. It was like, hey, thanks for all that you do. Hey, did you know? Hey, this is coming up. Hey, can you do this? Blah, blah, blah. It's so efficient. Text is an efficient thing on your phone, but when you can talk, like I said before, and hear the intonation in someone's voice is very, 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 very powerful. Voxer with a V. I can't say enough. I can't say enough. I can't say enough. Google Voice. All right. I think Google Voice is one of the most underused and underrated resources out there for kind of anybody, but especially an administrator. So like I said, I spent an hour less in my office a day, and very few people called my office. But when they did, it rang my cell phone number. All you got to do is go to Google Voice. Just Google Voice. Take the phone number for your office, plug it into Google Voice. It's going to forward any calls to that number to your cell phone. Now, some people are thinking, I don't want this. I don't want them calling my cell phone. And that's cool. But me, and most people have everybody's cell phone number. But me, if someone was calling me, I can still look at my phone, and you can actually listen, because they have to say who they are. So if they're like, hey, it's Larry from so-and-so software company, I don't want to answer that phone call because I'm not interested in a sales call right now and I don't want your software. But if it says, hey, this is Julie, I'm Jacob's mom, you know what? Maybe I want to take that phone call. Or maybe the superintendent's calling, or maybe the newspaper's calling. And you're not going to be back in your office for a couple hours because you're doing lunch duty, recess duty. You have a couple observations. Then you're on the bus duty, but you want to get that information. So you can also put office hours on that. So you don't want your phone to ring with that number from your office after 4 o'clock because that's when you're done working for the day. Or you can have it ring to your front office, your secretary, or your office manager. It's an app on your phone. It's completely free to receive calls. It's totally, completely awesome. Google Voice is where it's at. Check it out. Remind. Now, I want to give a little disclaimer here. I have done work with Remind, a lot of work with Remind over the years. I've never been paid for Remind ever. Any tool or resource that I talk about because I've used it and I believe in it. Something just came out 2 days ago that if you are a Verizon user, you can no longer receive text messages from Remind because Verizon had increased their fees like 11 times. With all that being said, I still think Remind is an amazing resource. When I got to my first school as principal, they did like a 5 or 6 page newsletter, single-sided, that they would print off for all 30 families, which absolutely blew my mind that we were still using that much paper. So very quickly I went to Remind because if you use Remind, you know what it is. It's text messaging. You set up a group, people opt into the group, and they can receive your text messages. And it's as simple as that. You know, I wanted something that was mobile. There are other programs out there that districts have. I've had to use them at times where you have to be in your office and go to the website, call the phone number. The phone number rings your office phone. You leave a message. There's like 25 steps. With Remind, you go to the app, you write your message, you hit send, everybody gets your message. Now, this is great for your parent community on so many levels. You can tell them, hey, there's a fire truck blocking the road, you know, traffic's going to be slow during pickup, whatever it may be. It's also great with your staff. Now, I remember back in the day when I was a teacher, we used to do an emergency phone tree. And one day at a staff meeting, your principal's like, okay, tonight we're going to practice the emergency phone tree where, you know, Phil calls Adam, Adam calls Julie, Julie calls Susan, and so on. The problem with that is it takes like 2 hours. And what if I don't get Julie? I call Susan, and then Julie didn't get a call, and it's this big old mess. So what we did is we just set up a Remind group for the staff, and I don't need to call anybody. I just send a message out. Hey, there's a gas leak at school overnight, and school's canceled for tomorrow. Whatever it may be. Everybody gets the message no matter what. And there's so many great features in there. The chat function, we actually piloted that at my school, and you know that's why Remind has chat where people can chat back to you if you want. And I've had people ask me, I don't want people to get, you know, to send me back Remind messages, and I think that's foolish. I want people to have the information. I'd much rather get a quick little message on my phone through the Remind app than like some long email or a 30-minute meeting that didn't need to happen, and just give people the information back. So you're going to have the pulse of your school on your finger when you use Remind because it's so simple and so straightforward and so easy. It's really, really awesome. Water break. One more.
Adam, can I just interrupt for a moment here?
Go.
A couple questions have come in. All of you, if you have questions, we'd love to have them in the Q&A box. But one that came in, and I'm just curious, does Remind actually save you time? I mean, as far as, because you can also do a group chat, you know, or a group text. But how does it save you time?
So Remind is great. Group text, that's a good question. People do not have your phone number in Remind. I'm talking about sending a Remind message to like the entire community. So if you have 600 families at your school, that's like, you know, potentially 1,200 1,200 recipients. And if any grandparents or nannies or guardians take that message, I'm not sending that in a text message. I'm sending that in a remind message. So it completely saves you time. And you can also schedule your messages. So I would sit down at the beginning of the week on Monday and just schedule messages through the week that I knew were going to come up. So I didn't need to go to my calendar, put a calendar reminder. Then when the calendar reminder pinged my phone, send a message. You schedule them, you forget about them, and they go out. I mean, I just can't say enough amazing things about Remind. The amount of time that I saved in workflow. Also, I'm a huge believer in giving other people control of these apps, people that you trust. My office manager had control of the Remind app. So if I'm at a principal's meeting for 3 hours and I'm not able to get a hold of, or I'm in a 4-hour IEP and all technology's turned off because it's a big meeting, she had control to go in there and write a message if something came up. So I'm not a believer in holding all the keys to the kingdom, because when you do and something comes up, the kingdom may falter a bit if you're not able to do that.
Adam, I had a question as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Adam, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. With all the tech tools that you're presenting and you're a new principal, how can you incorporate this to your staff? Would you do this during professional development, or would you do this like at a retreat? How could you get your staff to buy in on this so that everybody's on the same accord?
Yeah, so the first thing is go slow. If you're a new principal, don't try to do 15 new tools the first year, first month, because you may not even be able to maintain it, let alone introducing this to a staff that may not be totally receptive to it or ready, or, you got to build trust and relationships with your people before you go too far too fast. So my approach has always been, I'm going to use them and I'm going to try them out and I'm going to try to break them. I'm going to see if they save me time, if they're more efficient, if they're better than what we already have been using or what we've had. Then at that point, people have already heard about it. The community's talking about it. Some teachers know what you're doing. Then you can bring up that conversation. Kind of like Webinar Wednesday. I used to do Wired Wednesday. It was a voluntary little 15 minutes of professional development. I am not a fan of huge, long professional development. These tools are simple. You don't even really need anybody to explain them to you. You can go to Remind. Oh, sign up. Oh, create a class. Add people. I can figure this out. So I was a firm believer in doing little 10 to 15 minute professional development. And when you're done in 15 minutes, like, you're done. And you tell your staff, all right, that's it. Thanks for coming. And they feel, in my experience, they kind of feel refreshed. I've heard comments of like, oh, wow, all right, cool. Like, they learned something new. It was simple. It's going to save them time, and it only costs 15 minutes. I like that. So that's always been my approach to introducing new things to a staff. And yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Did you have another question, Honor? Or was that it?
I don't have it this one. I'll save it, the other ones for a little later.
Okay. All right, moving on. Google Drive. Now, Google Drive is not new. I can remember taking a previous district, Google, like over 10 years ago. And Google Drive is, to me, one of the biggest time savers, not just for you, but for your community and for your teachers and for your students. And, 2005 wants their flash drive back. There's no reason to have anything not in the cloud. And Google Drive is my app of choice. So if you're new, if you're a veteran, draw a line in the sand. After this date, I am no longer creating any documents in Microsoft. Everything is in Google. Now, I went Google over 10 years ago, and I've never looked back. And it took commitment. All right, like, I'm going to go Google. I'm going to do this. Are there a few documents maybe that your district still has that are not in Google? Potentially. You know what? Don't fight that. Focus on the big ones, and then over time, try to get those documents Googleized. Now, the Google Drive app on your phone is your lifesaver as well. You can have multiple accounts. You just toggle back and forth. As we all know, they're not on your phone. They're in the cloud. Every meeting you have, type it in Google. And here's an example. We used to have student study teams, SSTs, and teacher, parent, anybody else that was working with the students. It's like a 30-minute meeting. You're taking notes, you're writing them down. And you always take notes because you never know when you might need those notes. Maybe that student is going to go to special education assessment someday and you want those notes. Well, here's a really, really simple example of how Google Drive saves you time. I can remember a time when we had a student study team. I'm at recess doing lunch duty, playing basketball with some students. Get a phone call from my special ed director at the district office. Hey, so-and-so's parents just came down to the district office and they want special ed assessment. They said that you had a student study team a couple months ago. Do you have the notes? I said, yeah, hold on a second. Put it on speakerphone, went to my Google Drive from my phone, typed in the student's name because we had it saved, added my director of special education there right on the spot. I said, yeah, I just shared them with you. And she's like, what'd you share with me? I said, I shared the notes with you. This was like 7 seconds after she asked. She said, thank you, hung up, and I went back to my recess duty. Now, if you are not in the cloud and you are not mobile on your phone and you haven't gone Google yet, you have to either send yourself an email, call your office manager from recess, get a piece of paper on a Post-it note, write a little note, put it in your pocket. An hour later when you go back to your office, you have to sit down, find the notes, maybe make them a PDF, email them to your director of special education. You can see where I'm going. It takes time. You're going to forget sometimes. It's not going to be efficient. So the more that you go Google, the faster you're going to do things. Now, that's with your team. All team meeting notes, everything's Googleized. It's all organized in folders. Google has a Google Help. If you just Google Help, they have a whole website where you can actually just type in your question, and it's already going to anticipate what your question is. It's going to either have a video or a little 3 paragraphs about how to do something. Now, with your office should be Googleized as well. And here's an example. I had a consultant coming in many years ago to do some work with my staff. And I had many folders with my office manager that we would collaborate on. And one was just like to-do things to like finish up. Well, the consultant sent me a PO, sent me an invoice. I was somewhere off campus. I just threw that invoice into the shared folder. Didn't call my office manager, didn't text message her, didn't email, did not tell her in person when I got back. A week later, I asked her, hey, did you ever process that PO? She's like, yeah, 3 days ago. She processed it without me even knowing. Now, I didn't even need to ask her, but it was just coming up in conversation because we were hanging out. And that's just, to me, a really, really great example of she didn't need to ask me. She didn't need to email me. I didn't need to know it happened. It just happened without you. So that goes back to giving people control of your calendar. Give people control of your folder and your drive. Some principals give their office people control of their email. I've never done that. I never got that many emails. I'll talk about email at the end. But Google Drive across the board is the biggest time saver. Google Drive is also great. It's also kind of like YouTube Lite. I used to use Google Drive, and I still do actually, a lot for videos that I'm not ready or I never will be ready to put on YouTube. If students are in them, if it's like a private video about my staff, you put it in Google Drive. The only people that can see it are the people that you share it with. It's totally awesome. It's a great, and if you're a Google Apps district, you have unlimited storage. So you can put whatever the heck you want in there. With Google Drive, think about what's taking you the most time. Think about what's costing you the most time and see how you can digitize it or, more importantly, Googleize it.
Adam, we have one question that just came in. Jennifer asks, where can we get the article, How to Run Your School from Your iPhone?
Yeah. If you just Google it, Google How to Run Your School from Your iPhone, Adam Welcome, you'll find it.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Evernote. I am a long-time Evernote user, and I'll talk about Evernote because I've used it. There are many other note-taking apps out there. There's OneNote. I think Google has something called Keep. But the point of this is kind of also Google Lite, things that you would not put in your drive that you want just kind of like Post-it notes. Evernote is an absolute game saver and time saver. Whenever I was doing observations for teachers, I kept a folder I just created a folder in Evernote for every single one of my teachers. So I just kept notes in there about them. I didn't keep a journal. I didn't keep it on my computer because Evernote's on the cloud. Whatever you do on your computer, you're logged into your Evernote app on your phone or your iPad, you can see the notes. So I would take my laptop in when I would do an observation. I would take all my notes in Evernote. And then when I'm ready to write up the observation summary, I just go to the folder for each teacher, copy my notes, do my summary, and I'm good to go. The cool thing about Evernote also is you take a picture, you can drop it right into Evernote. I don't do business cards. I don't like paper. Somebody has a business card, I just say, hold it up. I don't want it. I want to take a picture of it. I have a folder in my Evernote account that says business cards. Let's be real. Business cards get lost. You put them in your wallet or your purse. They get sweaty. You lose them. They get torn. You can't find them. You don't have it when you need it. Let's say your house floods or your car gets broken into. My car got broken into 2 years ago. My iPad and my laptop stolen. 2 windows got smashed. I didn't really lose anything. The worst thing that happened was all the stickers that were on my laptop. I had to replace all my stickers. I went home, got my new iPad, got a new laptop. I logged into everything. It was still there. If it's on your computer, it's gone. If it's on a flash drive, it's gone. Everything needs to be in the cloud. You can also do voice recordings on Evernote as well too. So let's say I'm doing a teacher observation, or I'm just walking through classrooms. I walk outside the classroom. I go to the folder of that teacher. I can record a note to myself, maybe something that they need to improve on, something I want to do for them, a compliment. I can record that in their folder. I can even be in their classroom, find a student and ask them, what do you like about Mrs. Jones? Have the student record a 15-second little note for their teacher. When I'm doing the post-observation, I can say, hey, did you know that I talked to Julia when I was in class? And they're like, you did? And then play them that message. To me, that's like totally awesome and totally amazing. Evernote is free for users. I do actually pay for upgrade on Evernote. I fly a lot, and Evernote does not work when you're not on Wi-Fi. If you're not a pro user, I want to say it's like $30 a year. It's pretty cheap. But Evernote's totally awesome. I love it. I can't say enough good things about it. And again, if you use OneNote or Google Keep or any other kind of note-taking device, make sure it's mobile, make sure it's on the cloud, make sure it syncs to all of your devices. You can also have shared folders. So you can have like the big things in Google Drive with your office staff, and you can have small things in Evernote. I used to do this with my office manager. We would talk all the time, but I was never in the office. I was out on the school connecting with teachers and students and doing the work that a principal should be doing, in my opinion. But I would keep a notes, like a to-do section in Evernote that I just shared with her. So I could be in a classroom, type a note, she's going to see that, and then take care of things. Make these copies, plan the luncheon, whatever it may be, call the maintenance. I don't need to call her on the walkie-talkie to tell her to call maintenance that there's something that needs fixed. I just put a note in our shared folder in Evernote. She sees it. They take care of it without me even knowing. To me, that is how you run a school. That's how you live a balanced life as a principal, by empowering other people and by using technology tools so you have more time to spend with teachers, students, and your own family. Honor, do you have a question?
Adam, I have a question for you on that. So if you type a note to that teacher, will she then get a pop-up or something? How will she know that there's a note there?
No, they only get something if you've shared that folder with them. So I did not share folders with my teachers. I only shared them with my office staff. Those folders were for me to remind myself if I was doing something. So I'm not always carrying my laptop around in a classroom, but I have my phone. So then at the end of the day, I'm looking at my notes. Oh yeah, I had to tell Stephanie something about this or that, or maybe just like my mid-year catch up with each teacher. I can go back through my notes. It's just like it's an archive, if you will. For each.
For you on that. Yeah, and you mentioned like if I wanted to transcribe everything into a form or from Evernote, did you say there's ability to copy it over into other applications?
Yeah, for sure. So I used to create templates in anywhere, and you can upload templates to Evernote, and you can just type into each template in Evernote. So some people do their observations in Google. I used to do that as well. I've done them in Evernote. It uploads PDFs. It uploads pretty much anything. So
can you then print from there, from
sure
Evernote?
You sure can.
Yep. To your computer, to your printer?
Yep. They have a great blog where they always put out new resources and new ideas. It's awesome.
Okay, so I have another question for you. If you could, what kind of challenges do you see in the, in terms of using this technology? Do you ever worry that, like, what if Evernote disappeared one day, or whatever, or one of these other applications were to end, all of your stuff? I know it's in the cloud, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there in terms of backup.
Yeah, so good question. I've never lost anything. I'll tell you, Google's not going anywhere. Will Evernote be around? Maybe, maybe not. If Evernote shuts down, I've never had a company that has shut down, and that's happened to me, that didn't tell their users and make their data and information available to download and go somewhere else. And it's also a really great point. Like, don't get so stuck on anything, because really nothing is forever. Take Google, for instance. Like, I live in California, and I go to Google headquarters every couple of years. Whenever you go to Google on a tour, they always tell you what used to be in the building, because even Google is cognizant. Something could replace them someday. If you think about it, something's going to replace the internet someday. It may not happen in our lifetime, but I always really tried to travel light and tight. Light and tight, because nothing is forever, and if something goes down, that's okay. I can pivot and go to something else. I'd rather have everything in the cloud, because, like, again, if there's a flood, there's a fire, what am I doing with paper? It's not efficient. People have so much paper in their life because they just keep it. I have way more paper, way more documents and information than most people, because it's all in the cloud. If I had to store it all, I wouldn't have it all. There's no way. I would fill up 2 classrooms of all the stuff that I have. But when it's on paper, people keep it because they feel they have to have that, like, tangible thing in their hand. So I would rather take the risk of losing all my content than going back to 1985 when everything was on paper. Yeah.
So a couple people are writing in questions now. Let me get to some of those here. How do you incorporate tech tools with parents? Are there any strategies or techniques that you would share?
Yeah, heck yeah. So every PTA meeting, whatever kind of meetings you have at your campus, I always started it with something. 10 minutes. I showed the parents Twitter, why we're using it, what we're using it for, and how you can get signed up. I showed them Google, getting the whole PTA on Google. We had a shared Google Drive folder that was linked on our website. We didn't make, I lost my screen.
We lost your PowerPoint here.
Let's see. Oh my gosh, there we go. We didn't make copies for anybody. Everything was on the website under a shared Google Drive folder that they could just click on, and they could download it and print it themselves. So 1,000%. And, as a leader, I was always out front of the school every day, before school, after school, during school. And I believe it's important to be proactive in this. Nobody wants surprises, but when you're talking and telling people what you're doing, and you show the excitement, and kids, this is the language that kids speak. It's not like, it's not like anything that's new to them. If you ask kids what they love about technology, they don't know what to say, because this is just the life and the world that they live in. So the more that you can talk about it and push the ideas and push the agenda. I never had a parent that was like, we don't want this technology. If they say that, I'm going to say, well, you know what, this is the world that we live in, and I'm not going to get kids ready for a world that they don't live in and that they're not going to live in. So, but yes, parents are a huge piece. And we also used to do technology nights, and the kids would show the parents what to do. Kids would also make public service announcements, PSAs, for our school YouTube channel. YouTube is not something I'm going to talk about today, but every school needs a YouTube channel, hands down. every school needs a YouTube channel because YouTube is how kids create and consume media, and parents as well. So yeah, you have to involve the parents, hands down.
It sounds like it's really brought your parent community into your school a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think you have strong culture when you get the parents more involved with these tools. Your culture is going to become even stronger.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Here's another question. How can tech tools be used for lesson planning?
Yeah, so actually thinking of Evernote, well, Google Drive, first of all, you know, whatever you're trying to do, somebody else is already doing. So use Twitter. If you're trying to find a new idea to use in your classroom, go on Twitter. Hey, I teach third grade. I'm teaching a new lesson on igneous rocks. Does anybody have anything? You're going to get so many responses from people, you're not going to know what to do with them. So you're using technology to lesson plan. If you're in a rural school, urban school, suburban school, it doesn't matter. You're going to find resources that way. And then whatever you do, you know, with your grade level, with your department, keep a Google Drive folder and put everything in there. New lesson ideas. Hey, like, talk about Donors Choose. We're not going to talk about that today. I could talk all day about Donors Choose. If your teachers are writing Donors Choose grants and they get funded, create a Google Drive folder for your school and just title it Donors Choose Grants. So if I write a grant for 2 Chromebooks and I get funded, put the grant in the Drive folder. So then when somebody else 2 weeks later at my school or in my district wants to write a grant for 2 Chromebooks, they're not starting from scratch. We've got to use these tools to collaborate so we can work smarter and not harder and to get more things for our school. I was a principal at one school for 3 years. We had $85,000 in grants in Donors Choose funded in 3 years. That was not just from my community, a very small amount. It was from people all over the country, all over the world, because we're writing grants, we're tweeting them out, and you're getting funded. So it saves time, it's collaboration, and you can go on with your life and do whatever you want to do in your free time. So a couple of things I want to just close out with is this is not a tech tool, but it's an important tool for a principal. Talk out loud. I don't think enough leaders talk out loud. There are some things that you need to hold close to your chest. I totally understand that, and I totally agree with that. But in my opinion, most of the things that you're thinking about that you have going on, talk out loud. And here's an example. When you talk out loud at a staff meeting, in the cafeteria, at a principal's meeting, you're collaborating in a sense. And people are hearing about things. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing this, or we're doing this in my school. Somebody hears that and they say, oh, wait, what are you doing? Somebody you may not even know very well. Maybe a parent. And they know somebody who's connected to somebody who can help you with a resource for what you're talking about. But if you don't talk out loud, people aren't going to know what you're thinking. And as a leader, people want to know what you're thinking. People want to know what you're thinking about, what you want to do, what you have going on in your brain. And again, not everything can be shared with everybody in public. I totally get that. But if it's a new idea, if it's a project you want to do on campus, because you're also dropping seeds. You know, shock and awe does not work, where you just drop things on your staff or your community. But if you talk about it and enough people hear about it, they start hearing it. And I'm talking about like a month, 3 months, 6 months. You can talk about things. I think it's a really, really important concept, so you can have things come to fruition. And the last thing I want to close out with is email. You know, I never got that many emails when I was a principal, even when I was a director, and I was a director of innovation for a large school district. We had 50 schools. I didn't get many emails because I didn't send many emails. And there is still a place. It's a very small place. There is still a place for email, but how I see it used, it's used in a very inefficient way. So I just want to encourage people, if you get an email, is it faster and more efficient to pick up the phone? Is it faster and more efficient to send a text message in response? Is it faster and more efficient, and you're going to build a better relationship with that person to walk out of your office and walk down the hall to that classroom and answer that question that they have? I say yes. If you don't want emails, don't send them. And if you don't want to get emails, think about how you are responding to those emails.
Wonderful. Adam, we've got a question from Laura. Are there any security issues with storing student information, i.e. notes from a meeting on the cloud? My district would like would most likely not allow this, as we are not allowed to put student names and emails within our own system. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you need to be comfortable with what your district's doing, but all I can tell you is Google is HIPAA and FERPA and all those, they're all compliant. So as long as you're a Google district and they sign that pledge when they set up your Google domain, I've never had any problems with it. So hey, if it's on your laptop can get stolen and the information's out there anyway. Some districts have like a C drive or like an internal drive. I think those are a waste of time because you can't access them from home. Do we want to be working from home? No, but we want to be able to access our information, and you can't do that from your phone. I've never had any problem. I've never heard anybody having any problem. Just go check on Google and check their compliance for FERPA and HIPAA. And yeah, everyone I've always worked for has excuse me, has been okay. Mm-hmm. And if your district is worried about it, then there's probably some fear in there, and they need more information. So Google has all those white papers and all that information that you need.
And we have another question. How can principals use these tech tools to perform teacher observations?
Yeah, so I talked about it already with Google Drive and Evernote. Create templates. Your district probably has a template for observations. If it's not online, if it's just like a template, upload it to Google or Evernote, and during your observation, type directly into that template, and you're going to save a lot of time with your observations. Can you
send, like if I typed into it the template, let's say I uploaded it from my district and I filled it out, could I send right there from Evernote to the district office?
Yeah, sure you can.
Oh, great. Okay, good. So I had while you were talking, Adam, I had just thrown out, and I said, I asked the audience what favorite tech tools they use to see if there are any others. And one comment from Michelle was, our district hasn't invested in School Messenger. I still create a school newsletter, however. I upload and send the letter via Messenger. Within moments, all parents have a colored copy, can print out any forms they may need or want. And she says this has saved me an overwhelming amount of resources and time.
Cool.
And then Liz writes, she uses some more, Evernote, Voxer, Google. She says, keep loving. Use that with some PL work. Padlet is good too. Always looking for cleaner ways to communicate to parents other than some more. Thinking about Adobe Spark. Do you know anything about that, Adobe Spark?
Yeah, I think Adobe Spark is used to create like images, and I know a lot of people that have created S'more. I personally never did a newsletter. I didn't want to wait until the Monday or the Friday to give my community information. I wanted to use tools like Remind where I can give them information right away. And the analogy that I use is, if you read the newspaper, I read the New York Times. I don't read all 7 New York Times on one day. I read the New York Times every day. People consume information in little bits, and I feel when you give them a big newsletter, they don't always consume all that information because it's a lot of information. But if you give them to in little bits when the information is actually needed or when it comes to your brain, I think that's a very efficient way to communicate with people. With that being said, that's what worked for me in my school community. You need to do what works for you in your school community.
So each person may have different things that work better for them, right?
There is not one way to do anything. I mean, there are multiple ways to do anything. Like I said, I've been a principal at a couple different schools, and what worked at one school didn't work so great at the other school, because it's a different community. So you got to do what's best for your community, for your teachers, and for your students.
That's great. Yeah. Would you recommend that your entire staff be trained on these tech tools, and if so, why?
Well, like I said before, the training piece, I don't feel there's a whole lot of high-level training that needs to happen. I mean, like, here's an example. Most people are on Facebook. You didn't get trained on how to go on Facebook. You went to facebook.com, you click sign up, and then you figured it out. Oh, I can post little messages. I can do pictures. Oh, my bio. These tools don't require a master's degree or like an EDD. You go on and you figure it out. In a lot of cases, like the best tech help is a 10-year-old. So go grab a 5th grader, and if you have questions, have them help you out. A lot of people overthink it. That's a really great question, Honor. So many people overthink it and and just complicate it. Like, don't complicate it and don't overthink it. How can I use this to save me time with this part of what I do, either with communicating, with parents, with students, for myself, with collaborating, whatever it may be. You're not going to sit down for 3 hours and try to like spend time figuring it out. It's kind of like coding. I love code.org. You're not teaching kids to code. You're facilitating the learning process for them. You go to code.org, you click sign up, you type in their names, kids start coding. It's that simple. Don't overthink it. Keep it simple, and you're going to be able to do it. And you're going to be able to do it with longevity as well, too. Because if it's too complicated and takes too much time, you're going to start, you're going to have hiccups, you're not going to continue, you're going to stop. Start small, think big, but act really small. I think that's an important concept to think about.
Here's another question. What tech tools would you recommend for principals who want to connect with other principals? I mean, you mentioned, Twitter, but in terms of their own, just connecting with one another, is that the main one, or would you use Facebook, or what would you use on a daily basis?
Yeah, so like I said, I think Twitter's the best. Twitter is like Match.com. You meet other principals on Twitter. Go to Twitter right now, and if you're an elementary school principal, type in elementary school principal. Click on people. It's going to show every person on Twitter that has elementary school principal in their bio, which in turn is really important for you to think about. Do you have who you are and what you do in your bio? Then you connect with them. And after a couple months, you realize, gosh, I really like connecting with these 5 principals. I live in Florida. One's in New York. One's in Texas, Michigan, Tennessee, South Dakota, whatever. Then you go, hey, everybody, like, I love connecting with you all. Can we start a Voxer group so we can actually talk more? And they're like, what's Voxer? Oh, I'm glad you asked. You create a Voxer account. You get those 5 other people hooked up on Voxer. This was my goal, and Principals in Action is still going strong. I've actually written about it in NAESP magazine before. Then you get those 5 people. This is like the second date, third date, fourth date, like I was talking about. Then you build a long-term relationship with these people where every day you talk to them. You ask them questions. You collaborate. You commiserate. You cry. You laugh. That is your PLN. That is how you get to be not as isolated in this job. If you want to be on Principal Island in 2019, it is your choice, because there are so many people and tools and resources out there that want to connect with you that will help you connect.
And you mentioned connecting. What about professional development? How do you do your professional development using tech tools?
I've turned into a conference snob, and I've just been to too many conferences where I've already learned what I'm hearing on my phone from Twitter a couple months ago. So to me, the best PD is that PD in your pocket, and it's your Twitter account on your phone. And that's just where PD is. If I have a question, hey, I'm building a makerspace at my school. Does anybody have any resources? Like I said before, you are going to be inundated with ideas and resources that you don't even know what to do with. And you're going to pick 3 or 4 things, and then you're going to do them. And then in another couple of months, you're going to go back to that tweet, and you're going to find 3 or 4 more resources. And then in a couple of months, you're going to go back, and it's just a plethora of ideas. My dad taught second grade for 35 years. In that 35 years, there has been more change in education in the last 5 years than there was in the entire 35 years that he was a teacher. And the only people that you could collaborate with were the person that were in your grade level next door down the hall, or maybe you went to a conference once a year somewhere and you had to get their phone number and their mailing address and mail them lesson plans or call them on the phone. It's just so dang easy. There are no excuses for anything. And if you don't know how to do something, Google it. Ask Alexa. It's that simple.
That's wonderful. We'll take a few more questions if anyone has it. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to you, Aaron.
All right. I want to definitely thank you, Adam, for all this knowledge that you shared. Again, everyone should be tech savvy in 2019 to expand on their productivity in their schools. So do we have any questions on her at this time?
Nope, we're all done.
Okay, well, on behalf of NAESP, I would like to thank you, David Welcome, for being here, sharing that information on behalf of our Executive Director, Dr. Earl Franks, and our Associate Executive Director of Professional Learning, Gail Morgan. Thank you for being here. Thank you for attending our Webinar Wednesday series Also attend our next month webinar Wednesday coming up as well on an important topic. I'll see you then. Again, this is Aaron Lurie, Director of Professional Learning here at NAESP. Bye-bye now.